everybody, and welcome to the Faith Homestead Podcast. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Matt.
And thanks so much for being here with us today. So today we're going to be talking about our garden. We have reinforced our garden from predators by doing some hardware cloth skirting, which Matt spent the entire day today doing. So we're going to talk to you a little bit about that. We're going to tell you kind of what's been going on this week, and we just thank you so much for being with us today. If you are listening to us on YouTube and you're watching us, or if you're listening to us on your favorite podcast, thank you so much, and please don't forget to follow us. So what did you do today, and how did it go?
So we were skirting our garden today. I guess that's the right term for it.
Yeah, I think it's called skirting.
Last year we
Do you want to explain what that is, though, for people that don't know what that means?
Yeah, so last year we had some unwanted visitors in the garden.
Yes, bunnies
really
and groundhogs.
Went to town on especially the cantaloupes, but the cucumbers.
Yeah.
Just had a lot of unwanted guests in the garden. So we had skirted the chicken coop with the hopes of keeping out any unwanted guests there, and it really seemed to work nicely. So we got a 100-foot roll of hardware cloth. I think they were 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch squares. So basically we got a 2-foot length, 2 foot by 100 foot of hardware cloth that we used to skirt the entire thing. So I basically measured out 16 inches from the edge of the garden all the way around the perimeter, and dug up the ground all the way around it, so that I could bury the hardware cloth underneath of it. Basically bent it at a 90-degree angle so it came basically down the wall of the actual garden, and then skirted out flat to the ground, and then reburied all of it, which should help to keep out all those unwanted guests in the garden. So
yeah, do you want to explain how that works? Like why do you have to skirt it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the concept, and again, like I said, we really saw it work well with the chicken coop, is anything that wants to dig in is coming into where the fence touches the ground, and it starts to dig. And as it digs down, it hits that hardware cloth, realizes that it's not going to get through there, and it starts to back up, and it will back up and try to dig, and it hits the hardware cloth, and eventually the animal will end up giving up on the idea that they're going to get underneath of that. And even if they do find the edge of the hardware cloth, they're going to have to go at least a foot, 16 inches underneath of that to get to the fence, and then have to get underneath of that. So first part of that is, they're going to have to do that at night, right? So they're during the daytime, not that we are watching the garden all of the time, but we're able to see if they're out there and they're trying to get to it. Southeast PA, we have a lot of groundhogs.
Yes, we do.
A lot of rabbits. So just trying to keep them outside of the garden. It's been really, really successful with the chicken coop. We only had one, probably the fox, was trying to get underneath.
Well, we had the coyote too, and because we had the coyote, he was leaving his droppings everywhere, like marking his territory at night, or just going to the bathroom because he was spending so much time trying to get into our
trying
coop.
to get underneath of it.
It was crazy. I mean, I will be 100% honest. If we didn't skirt our chicken coop 2 feet out and use 1/2 inch hardware cloth around our entire coop, our windows, everything, our flock would have been gone this year. We've actually been really lucky up until this point. We've had no predator issues, and we've had no predator issues in our garden. I lie. So when we built our garden, we did 8-foot fencing around the entire perimeter because of deer. Like the deer they can jump really high, but we've noticed that they can't jump over 8 feet, or they just don't even try.
The first year we had the 4-foot fence.
Nope.
They got in, and it was, one day our garden was there and the next day it wasn't.
Yeah, right? Completely demolished.
And we, with the chicken coop, we we saw a couple of holes, and they were larger holes, so we knew that, you know, something was trying to get inside, not just to get inside, but to get to the birds. So
for sure.
And one thing that I did there, I actually took some of the scraps of hardware cloth that I had left over, and I rolled them up as if it was like a newspaper, and stuffed it down inside of the hole that he built, and then backfilled it.
Yeah.
And
just in case he was going to try the same hole.
He came back and tried to hit the same hole and hit that hardware cloth that was rolled up, and he hasn't touched that hole since.
Yeah, we have not had him or I don't know if it was the coyote or the fox. We've had both. The coyote was very mangy though. I don't know what was going on there, but we haven't had. It's been a good 2 months. But it was, I mean, for a while, for like a couple weeks there, it was like every day I was like worried to go out there to like see, like worried that they would have gotten in. But we can't recommend enough when you're doing, I mean, I see it every day on Facebook, like chicken groups. I'm in a few groups on Facebook, and every single day people are posting these horror stories, like these pictures and like these horror stories of their flocks getting taken out by, I mean, from raccoons to foxes to coyotes. And all the in between. I mean, the raccoons, they just want to. They don't even eat them. They just want to just kill them for fun. It's like a sport for them. But all these people they're just using chicken wire, or they're using like, is that what it's called? The chicken wire?
Yeah. So like the chicken wire, chicken fencing, you know, is
okay during the day.
It's okay to keep the birds where you want them,
not when they're sleeping.
But it doesn't necessarily do enough to actually protect them from predators on the outside, at least from what I've found where we live.
Half-inch hardware cloth, we've done a ton of research, and half-inch hardware cloth is like the gold standard for like predator protection. You can call us lazy if you want, but we don't shut our coop door at night, so our chickens have an enclosed run, and then they have their door to their chicken coop. The run is fully secured by half-inch hardware cloth, top, bottom, and ins and outs. But we leave our coop door open but we can, because we have the skirted hardware cloth, and our coop is like Fort Knox. But if you have a flock and you are not shutting your coop door at night, you need to make sure that you have hardware cloth on your run, because it's just chicken wire is just not adequate for.
And you don't have to dig deep to get the hardware cloth skirt to go.
Yeah.
When we put up the run, it was actually kind of easy because of all of the construction, everything else. The ground was really beat up in that area.
Yeah, it was.
So it made it easy just to kind of take that top 2 inches off, lay that cloth down, put it right back down again.
Yeah.
With our garden, 3 of the sides are actually easy to do. Because we have our garden right on the edge of our property line, that was probably just because
it was out of the way.
When we first built that garden, we didn't know, 1, how much we were going to be able to produce, but 2, how much did we want to invest into the garden to then, you know, get the fruits of the labor, right?
Yeah.
So we didn't want to take up the backyard. Now,
we're thinking about doing our entire backyard.
We're gonna double or triple our garden size.
Yeah, add some fruit trees. Just make the whole backyard like.
Yeah, not necessarily this year, but potentially.
Yeah.
And so it is on the property line.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to go digging up the neighbor's yard, without at least talking to them. But I actually dug I raked all of the mulch back, which
looks amazing.
It was something
by the
that
way.
I was pretty shocked at.
It was I came over to check and see what he was doing, and I was like, I mean, it's mulch, so how pretty can it be? But it was like, it just looks so rich. I'm so excited for our second year.
The soil underneath of the mulch was pretty shocking. So when I raked it back, our soil tends to pack out. It gets very, like I can rototill the entire
5
garden.
minutes later.
And it packs out just as fast as you walk across it. It's packed out, and it's just
hard as a rock.
It's just it's hard to, without spending a lot of money and a lot of time on bringing that soil to where we want it to be. It's a challenge, and so the mulch in there to really keep that moisture on the ground. And I took the shovel to it, and the shovel went right in, which is not something our ground ever would do. But It was moist soil.
It was like black.
When I pulled it up and laid it down next to where I was going to be putting that fencing in, it just crumbled. And typically our ground, when we rototill it, will do that, but then it will become hard again.
Yeah.
It sat there and, probably a good hour or two, raked it back into the hole. Didn't even have to do anything to it.
Yeah, and if you're not sure what we're talking about, we are now entering our second year of Back to Eden gardening. If you're not sure, I will link that in the profile. It is basically what it means. Like we're going back to Eden. We're what God has given us. Like we're just trying not to disturb and letting the earth work for us the way it was intended to. So it's just really amazing. And there's like no weeds in our garden too, which is like my mom just cannot get over the fact that she's like, I don't understand how there are no weeds in your garden. Yeah. I'm like,
there's some grasses growing, stuff like
very,
that.
Very,
really sporadic, but
yeah, it's so cool.
I had my son with me, and he grabs them, pulls them, and they come right out. Yeah. It's the other really neat part about it. When the weeds come in, they don't really have that strong root system. Mm-hmm. So you grab them, the whole root system comes out of the ground.
It's crazy.
And it's, a 5-year-old was doing it. It wasn't complicated.
Yeah, he was out there all day with you. It was wonderful.
He had a lot of fun, and I had him on the other side of the fence. So wire tying, just got some 16 gauge fencing wire tied the skirt to the fence so that the animals that are not going to dig under it, that want to try to get over it, aren't going to get above it either. They're going to have to get a foot in the air before they can try to squeeze through the larger fencing that we use on the garden. So
we're going to show you all that. That'll be at the end of this video. So if you're listening on the podcast, you won't be able to see it, but you can just head on over to our YouTube channel and check that out.
Absolutely. And so that was we have it most of the way there. Have 2 short sections that are left to do. Coming up with a plan for our entryway for the garden now.
Yeah, it's a little tricky.
Just want to come up with a way that we're not necessarily making it more of a challenge, right? And so was excited to, it did take a little bit longer than I hoped. And, I ran a string down 16 inches out, so I knew how far to actually shovel, and
it looked
probably spent more time than I needed to make it okay. Make it be, I just didn't want to end up shoveling more dirt than what I needed to. And so just used the string line as my guide. And, the hardware cloth is really easy to work with. So you don't need, heavy clippers or anything like that to cut through it. I just had a pair of straight edge shears that, went through it, and really molds nicely when you're trying to bend it in, and you don't necessarily have to worry about like a fence straightener or removing any of the coil out of that fencing.
Yeah.
Just started laying it down, was able to bend it in, and it really worked out pretty well. I mean, we'll see. Obviously, time will tell over the summer how well it works.
I think it's gonna be great.
But Sarah spends a lot of time with getting those seeds started, getting the greenhouse going indoors, hardening them off before we get them in the ground. And where we live, the middle of May is when stuff needs to be in the ground.
We're running out of time.
We're at the middle of May, so it's time to get that done. And it's hopefully something that lasts for us for the next few years, especially while we consider what we want to do with enlarging the garden in that space. So I think it'll work nicely for what we need, and be able to protect all that hard work that went in up to this point.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much all we have today. We're gonna just close with Matt's Self-Reliant Sunday. Do you have anything for us today?
Yeah, so I think that, again, getting uncomfortable, right? So it's at least getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that's the...
it's like your motto.
I think that it's important, when I say uncomfortable, I mean, it doesn't have to be suffering to the point of, questioning existence. There was a few times today where I was down, feeling my back, going, man, I could take that break and Thomas even was, wondering when break time was.
Well, you guys had a good dinner.
And he was a trooper. He was, he was working pretty hard out there. Yeah. But, again, just kind of pushing those boundaries, those limits of, what we think is possible, right? Our own mind sets these limitations on what we can do, and even just pushing on that just a little bit, I think is, it's something that we need to do. Yeah. And yeah, absolutely. Having a good dinner at the end of the day is always something that's much appreciated. And being that it's Mother's Day weekend, happy Mother's Day.
Oh, thank you so much. And happy Mother's Day to all of you out there as well. Well, we are going to head out, but if you stick around, you will see a little short video of Thomas and Matt working on the garden today. And we hope that all the women who are listening to this, podcast and this YouTube video, that our mothers have a wonderful Mother's Day. God bless.
There you go. Now you're getting the hang of it.
We'll pull that one in next.